Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Watch as Senator John Kennedy obliterates Penn State law professor Kate Shaw by using her own words. Her reaction is priceless. Leave a comment and a like. Tell everyone if you think she is an educator or if she's more of an activist indoctrinator. I mean, geez. This lady is ridiculous. She's the reason this country's in the position we're in. Teaching her kids her values and not the country's values. I don't know about you, but I just love listening to Senator Kennedy. He gets to the point and doesn't hold anything back. Correct me if I am wrong, but isn't she 100% biased? Can't even own up to her own words. Is it fair to call her an evil woman? Trump haters are showing just how ignorantly dumb they really are.
Would any of you advise a client to defy a federal court order?
No.
None of you would? How about you, Professor?
I mean, under most circumstances, we follow, the government and private parties follow court orders. I suppose I would not rule out ever the possibility that in a sufficiently egregious order, there should be some consideration of whether there's a way.
So in some cases,
I think it's a qualified answer, yes.
In some cases you would.
In an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered, yes.
Okay. Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
I'm not sure what if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse.
Smart,
no.
I've read your stuff and I've read your writings. I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids. So I'll leave you out of that. Do you think nationwide injunctions are being abused?
Certainly, Senator. I think that is.
They're being abused by both sides, aren't they?
Yes, Senator.
Kate Shaw, a University of Pennsylvania law professor and Democratic witness, was invited to lecture senators on respecting judges during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on June 3rd, 2025. Respect? What a noble concept. Until you dig into Shaw's own words. On her April 22nd, 2024, podcast episode titled, "Will SCOTUS Let January 6 Defendants Off the Hook?" she brazenly called certain Supreme Court justices evil, specifically referencing Justice Elena Kagan's inability to control the potential future distortion by her evil colleagues. When confronted by Senator John Kennedy, did Shaw own her inflammatory rhetoric? No. She dodged, claiming she didn't recall using the word evil, and suggested a transcription error. A transcription error? Really? The receipts are clear, Professor Shaw. Your own voice betrayed you. This isn't just a slip of the tongue. It's a calculated betrayal of the integrity she's supposed to uphold as an officer of the court. Shaw, married to MSNBC's Chris Hayes, had the audacity to lecture senators on judicial respect while slandering justices she disagrees with. Is this the example she sets for her students at Penn? A professor who can't remember her own vitriolic words from a year ago, or worse, lies to cover them up? Her refusal to take accountability, despite Kennedy quoting her verbatim, suggests a deeper motive: to vilify conservative justices while posing as a neutral academic. Why else would she deflect when caught red-handed? Shaw's actions don't just undermine her credibility. They betray her profession and her students, who deserve a mentor with intellectual honesty, not partisan venom. Enter Adam Schiff.
But this comes in the context of the administration also going after law firms. It seems very much a part of a concerted effort to attack the rule of law and using the law to defend people's rights. Tell us a little bit about the broader context.
I do think that attacks on judges and attacks on law firms are of a piece. They seem designed to seek to neutralize sources of countervailing authority and opposition to this administration. And if law firms can't take on unpopular causes because they are scared to run afoul of the president, and if judges are scared to rule against the president, then we really have lost any meaningful check on a president. And as I said in my opening remarks, I think if the Constitution is committed to a single principle, it is limits on power, right? No absolute power. And I worry that we are on a path toward few, if any, meaningful limits on the president.
The newly minted California senator, who played a key role in this hearing, questioning Shaw about attacks on the judiciary. Schiff, ever the self-styled guardian of the rule of law, framed the discussion as a defense against Trump's alleged assaults on judicial independence. But let's peel back the curtain. Schiff's decision to platform Shaw, a professor who casually labels justices evil, reeks of hypocrisy. How can he champion the rule of law while amplifying someone who disrespects the very institution he claims to protect? This is the same Schiff who, during his Senate campaign, manipulated California's jungle primary by boosting a weak Republican opponent, Steve Garvey, to sideline progressive Democrats Katie Porter and Barbara Lee. Critics, including Porter, called it a cynical move to avoid a tougher fight. Is Schiff's commitment to democracy as pure as he claims, or is it just a convenient mask for power-hungry tactics? Schiff's track record only deepens the skepticism. His leadership in Trump's first impeachment and the January 6th committee, while lauded by Democrats, was censured by Republicans in 2023 for pushing baseless distortions about Trump-Russia ties. Was Schiff seeking justice, or was he chasing headlines to boost his national profile? His selective outrage, condemning attacks on judges while ignoring Shaw's inflammatory rhetoric, suggests a man more interested in political theater than principle. Why else would he platform a witness whose own words undermine the hearing's supposed purpose? Schiff's motives seem clear: stoke partisan fires, delegitimize conservative justices, and maintain his image as a Democratic crusader, all while dodging accountability for his own party's contradictions. The Shaw-Schiff debacle is a microcosm of the Democratic Party's broader hypocrisy. They preach respect for institutions while their chosen witnesses sling mud at the Supreme Court. They cry foul over judicial ethics, pointing fingers at conservative justices like Clarence Thomas for undisclosed gifts, yet stay silent when their own allies like Shaw attack the court's legitimacy with reckless language. Democrats, led by figures like Senate Judiciary Chair Dick Durbin, have pushed for Supreme Court ethics reform, framing it as a defense of public trust. But isn't it convenient that their outrage targets only conservative justices? Where's the call for accountability when liberal justices, like Stephen Breyer, take trips funded by politically active billionaires? The selective indignation is deafening. This hearing, like Schiff's primary tactics, reveals a party willing to manipulate narratives and processes to cling to power. By inviting Shaw to lecture on judicial respect, Democrats set her up to fail. Or worse, knowingly used her to push an anti-conservative agenda while feigning neutrality. Either way, it's a failure of leadership and integrity. Why should Americans trust a party that can't even vet its witnesses for consistency? The Democrats' crusade to protect the judiciary looks more like a calculated effort to control it, slandering those who don't align with their ideology while excusing their own contradictions. Kate Shaw's refusal to own her evil remarks and Adam Schiff's role in amplifying her expose a Democratic Party more interested in scoring points than upholding the principles they tout. Shaw's dodge, blaming a non-existent transcription error, betrays her academic integrity and casts doubt on her fitness to guide future lawyers. Schiff, meanwhile, continues his pattern of strategic maneuvering, from primary games to selective judicial outrage, all while cloaking himself in the mantle of democracy's defender. Why do Democrats lecture on respect while their witnesses disrespect the highest court? Why does Schiff champion the rule of law but ignore his own party's double standards? The answer is simple: power. This hearing wasn't about protecting the judiciary. It was about weaponizing it against ideological foes. Democrats like Schiff and allies like Shaw aren't just failing to uphold their own standards. They're building a house of cards on hypocrisy, and it's only a matter of time before it collapses.
Both Republicans and Democrats are forum shopping, aren't they?
Certainly.
Professor, do you disagree with that?
I think both sides are abusing them. I agree.
Okay. Both sides.
Yeah.
There are no clean hands here. Now, your suggestion is that when a federal judge issues a nationwide injunction, there should be an automatic stay and an expedited right of appeal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you disagree with that?
I haven't given enough thought to have a position on it, Senator.
I suspect, Professor, your answer will be it depends on who's president.
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about this. What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day. I'm not suggesting it. I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer if you can't afford it. That clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright. In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction. But in a case where the law is unclear, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that, Senator, because I think universal injunctions transgress the limitations under Article 3, even if the underlying merits are clear.
I happen to agree with you. I don't think there's any basis under Article 3, under Supreme Court precedent, under the English common law for nationwide injunctions. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him. Professor, let me ask you this while I have you. On April 22nd, 2024, you said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
I'll take your word, Senator. I don't recall using that word, but.
All right, here's what you said. You were talking about the majority opinion in Muldrow v. City of St. Louis. You said, quote, Justice Kagan, will she be able to control the opinion's future distortion by her evil colleagues? Probably not, end quote. Who were you talking about?
Sir, I'm very skeptical. If it's a transcription, it was probably a transcription error. I do not think I said.
No, you said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical of some members of the Supreme
Court. You're embarrassed that you made
Court.
that statement, aren't you?
I'm
You're an officer
It
of
doesn't
the
sound
court.
like something that
You know
I
what
would
I'm
say.
embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil in
Here,
the classroom,
on
sir.
your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful to federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.